Hello, my name is Alan Arnold. This is my project management presentation. The overview of my project, when selecting a project to do for this assignment, I didn't want to just do any old project. I wanted to do something that would make a difference. So I selected to do a project that would make my workplace safer. The project that I chose is called hazard mapping. Hazard mapping is a tool that's designed to identify workplace hazards. It's also encouraged by OSHA. You can find more information on their website about it. Hazard mapping is used in industries and various workplaces in an effort to reduce workplace hazards. It uses a systematic approach to identifying hazards. Initial steps included drawing a map of my work area. It also included documenting landmarks or equipment or tanks or whatever to give you a reference point. Next step was to look for hazards that were present in the work area. Once those hazards were identified, you had to know the location of the hazards on this hand-drawn map. The next step was classifying the hazards by type and severity, and I'll talk about that in just a moment, a little more in detail. The next step after that was to evaluate options for removing or reducing the hazards. Hazard types and severity. Hazards can be categorized in 5 different classes. The first being electrical. Examples of this could be high voltage wires or exposed wiring that could cause harm to someone. The next class could be a physical hazard. It could be a slip or trip hazard. Maybe pinch points that would be present, someone can get caught. The next class of hazards is chemical hazards. These hazards could be corrosive or cause burns to an employee. The next hazards are those that are flammable or perhaps explosive. Gas would be a good example of this. And then the last hazard is just other. If you have a hazard that does not fall into the first 4 classes, then you would just classify it as an other type. But once the hazards have been classified, they're also rated, given a numerical rating on a scale of 1 to 4, 1 being low risk and 4 being high risk. Evaluation of removing the hazards, and that is the ultimate goal on this. If you want to remove the hazard, by removing the hazard, you remove the risk of someone becoming injured. First question you ask is, can the hazard be removed completely? If so, you remove the risk. If it cannot be removed, can it be repaired or some sort of substitution take place in order to reduce the risk? A good example of that could be a chemical hazard. Perhaps a chemical that's being used is highly dangerous. Could it actually be substituted with a less dangerous chemical? Next question you ask, can it be mitigated? Is there some type of engineering controls that could be put in place to minimize the hazard? Maybe perhaps a barrier put in place to protect the worker from coming in contact with the hazard. The next question you can ask is, can some type of warning device be installed to warn the worker, to alert them of the hazard? Could more training of a safer method of performing work in the area, could that be an option? And lastly, can personal protective equipment help? Perhaps a chemical suit, a face shield, etc. All these things need to be taken into consideration when you evaluate the hazard for removal. The next step is to document the hazards on the map. This is just a hand-drawn sketch or drawn map that is done out in the field of the workplace. And once you have that hand-drawn map, you place the hazards in an accurate location to your reference points that you've already identified on your map. And you want to document the class of hazard as we went over a few moments ago. And you also want to document the severity of the hazard. You give it a class and a hazard. You can just use the hand-drawn map and post it in the work area, but I wanted to give it a more professional look, so I converted the hand-drawn map into a computer map, a computer-generated map. I included the layout of the work area with different structures and equipment that were present. Also, once the hazards were identified, I used different colors to reference what class of hazard was present. Blue being electrical, green chemical, orange is a physical hazard, brown something that's flammable or explosive, and then black just other hazards that cannot be specified. This is one floor of several floors that were done on a boiler in my work area. As you can see, the gray references shows the different reference points of equipment or tanks and so forth that are present in the workplace. The different colored circles represent different hazards that were identified. You'll notice each circle has a color and also a numerical rating within that circle. The big circle in the center of the screen, you'll notice, has 3 different colors within that one tank. This represents a chemical hazard, a physical hazard, and a flammable or explosive hazard, all within one piece of equipment. The benefits to this map is that a worker coming in contact with that area can, at a glance, look at this map and identify where potential hazards are and also their risk level for those. The next map is a different floor. It's more of the same. The different structures that are located in that one floor. It also has different types of hazards throughout that floor that workers come in contact with. Each one of these maps were placed on a specific floor that it was drawn for. This is another floor which showing different hazards that were located. Some of the risks and problems that we encountered is that our team could have been a little more diversified in its knowledge of removing different types of hazards. As you can see from the previous slides, there were several different classes of hazards. So we could have had a little more in-depth knowledge of the different types of hazards and how to hopefully remove them. That's the ultimate goal, is to remove the hazard. Also, some of the software that I used had some limitations with drawing maps. Ultimately, it worked out fine, but it was not real user-friendly for drawing maps. And also, some of the areas where I posted that needed to post the maps, it was difficult to post the maps onto the structure. It was difficult to do. The maps were laminated. Once they were computer generated, they were laminated and adhesive on the back to place them into conspicuous areas where people could see them as they walked into the work area. Some of the materials and templates that were helpful for me was the Gantt chart. This was very helpful in looking at a glance at what work had to be done, what day, when it was due, and how long it was projected to take. The project risk analysis also helped. It forced me to look at possible problems that may come up, and also forced me to come up with solutions to those problems should they occur. The work breakdown structure was extremely helpful in giving you step-by-step instructions on what needed to be done. some of the lessons learned is, number one, projects take time. The second thing was projects take a lot of communication in order to be successful. Be sure and allow extra time for surprises that may come up. And success equals more projects. This is a project that was done for my employer, and our team did such a good job on it. This was one specific area that we performed a hazard match for, and now I've been asked to do it for the entire plant. So if you're successful, you may get more of the same. I hope you enjoyed my presentation. I enjoyed doing the project, and I really learned a lot. Thank you.